Hi, I have another part of our story about Elijah today. You remember how God had told Elijah to go talk to King Ahab and tell him there would be no rain as long as they prayed to idols? They were praying to the idol Baal. And he did that, and then he went and hid in the by the brook Kerith, and God sent the ravens to bring him food. I know you remember that story. And then when there was no rain and the creek dried up, Elijah went down. God told him to go down to the city of Zarephath, and there was a woman there that would give him food. And do you remember that she gave Elijah the last bit of her food? And God blessed them and gave them flour and oil every day after that for 3 years while there was no rain. And do you remember also we talked about it in our Zoom meeting that little boy got sick and he died? And Elijah prayed 3 times, and God healed the little boy and he lived again. Many amazing things happened to Elijah, didn't they? Well, here's another part of that story, and another really super amazing thing that God did. Okay, so there hadn't been any rain for 3 years, and Ahab was still a wicked king and still telling the people that the idol Baal would be the one to bring rain. Well, no rain was coming because the idol Baal can't do anything. He's not even real. He's not alive. And God told Elijah, it's time now. I want you to go talk to King Ahab. So Elijah, even though that must have been scary because Ahab wanted to kill him, Elijah trusted God. And he went and talked to Ahab, and he said, Ahab, it's time for this to be finished. I want you and your priests of Baal and all the people to meet me at the top of Mount Carmel, and we will see who is the true God. So Ahab said, okay, we'll meet you at the top of Mount Carmel. So Elijah went up to the top of the mountain, and so did King Ahab, that wicked king that was telling everyone to pray to Baal. He went to the top of Mount Carmel, and so did lots of other people, the priests of Baal, and lots of other people that were there to watch came to see what would happen. They knew that Elijah had been the one to go talk to King Ahab and tell him there would be no more rain, and they wanted to see what would happen. And they all got up there, and Elijah said, here's what we're going to do. The priests of Baal will build an altar. They will put a sacrifice on it. They'll put the wood on it, put a sacrifice on it, top of it, and they will ask their god Baal to send fire from the sky and burn up their offering. And after that, I will do the same thing. I will build an altar and put a sacrifice on top and pray to the God in heaven. And whoever answers by fire, that is the true God. Well, Elijah knew that he was worshiping the true God. Well, and this was a way that people worshiped God then. They would build an altar with a sacrifice, and they didn't wait for fire to come down, but they would set fire to it and pray, and that was a way they worshiped God. We don't do that anymore, but that's what they did then. So that's what the prophets of Baal did. They built an altar. They piled a bunch of stones on top of each other. They put the wood on top, and then we'll have these guys be the prophets of Baal. Then they started saying, oh, Baal, send fire down and burn up the altar, or burn up the offering. Baal, answer us. And they started getting crazy. Because Baal didn't answer, so they started dancing and jumping around and shouting, and all morning long they prayed to Baal to send fire to burn up their offering. Well, guess what? No fire came. That's not surprising, is it? Because Baal was not real, not alive. And Elijah said, all right, after many hours, that's enough. It's time now to see who's the true God. So then Elijah, he built a different altar. He piled the stones on top of each other, and he even dug a trench around, like a ditch around the altar. I'm going to use the wood from the other one because I don't have any more little felt wood. But anyway, he put the wood on top, and he didn't stop there. He got big barrels, huge big barrels of water, and had helpers pour water, tons of water, over top of the wood, the altar, and it even filled up the ditch that he dug all around the altar. Now I have a question for you. Maybe you don't have fireplaces in your house that have wood in them, but maybe you've been camping and you've seen wood burn, and maybe this is just something you already know. If wood gets wet, does it burn very well? I can tell you it doesn't. When wood gets wet, it doesn't really burn. Well, Elijah made sure that this wood was very wet. The prophets of Baal hadn't done that, but Elijah did that. He poured water all over it, and then it was his time to talk to God. And he didn't jump around and scream and yell. He kneeled down and he said, Lord in heaven, let all of these people know that you are the true God in heaven. And guess what happened? Instantly, fire came down from heaven and burned up the offering, burned up the wet wood, burned up the rocks. Do rocks burn? No, but they did this time. Burned up the rocks and burned up all the water that was around. And the people said, oh, the God of heaven, he is the true God. And they believed that God in heaven was the true God and not Baal anymore. Well, that's a pretty amazing story, don't you think? That God sent fire from heaven and burned up that whole offering, not just the wood and the offering on top of it, but the rocks and the water, and it blasted down from heaven. That must have been quite an amazing thing to see. And after that, shortly after that, just like that night, God did send rain, and rain watered the ground, and the grass started to grow again, and the people remembered to worship God. Let's look at these words today. The Lord cares for those who trust in him. Did Elijah trust in God? He certainly did. This is supposed to be Elijah with fire blasting down out of heaven to burn up that offering. I want to trust God, and I hope you want to trust God too, and he will take care of us too. Talk to you later.